What's up, guys? I feel a little naked because I don't have my headset on right now. And I also am missing something else that you're very accustomed to seeing. But we're going to do something a little different again. We have done this recently in the past couple of weeks or so. We've got Dave here from Own Your Good, and we're going to go through another round of an interview, and we're hopefully going to do a few more of these and continue down a collaboration path. So excited to continue to do this with him on a number of different things. But we've got him in the recording, the gaming studio with us. We'll call it the gaming studio. This is my office. But we've got Dave here. And so we're excited to be with him and to actually have the opportunity to go through and answer some more questions. So Dave, thanks for coming in, and I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. I adjust my microphone here too. Yeah, I had this idea that I love to create, and it's been something that I'm trying to push my students to do as a teacher. It's one thing to consume content, but it's another thing to produce content, and I'm fascinated with the process, starting websites, starting YouTube channels, starting blogs and podcasts. And so today, last time we talked a little bit about what it is, Jack and the Xbox gaming, and today we're going to talk about what those first steps are to make that happen, what it takes to start a YouTube channel or a podcast, what equipment is required, how much money it might cost. And obviously there's a spectrum of that, but there are a lot of people that want to play video games for a living, and we're just going to dive into what that looks like, what kind of education might be required, what kind of investment in technology and things. So, what experience do you have with... Go ahead. Yeah.
Before we get into that, Dave, will you just remind everybody about your podcast, where to find it, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, the podcast is called Own Your Good, and the aim of it is to help people not be ashamed of what it is that they're good at, whatever their talent is. And sometimes whatever our talent is, we know we're good at it, but we figure everybody else is too. And so I want to help people figure out what that is. If somebody's good at cooking, or if somebody's good at listening to other people's problems. There's a variety of talents and things. So the podcast covers all of that. Interviews with people who are artists and photographers, and doing interesting things. I've interviewed a lot of different people that do haunted houses and roller coasters and custom-made suits. And I think it's fascinating what people have talents and hobbies in. And that is found wherever you want to listen to podcasts. And I still haven't put anything else new up yet, but it'll be on YouTube too. There are a few episodes there now.
And just so everyone's aware, that link is in the description for your YouTubes. So you can get a few of those podcasts.
And there's the link to the podcast, or you can just look up the podcast where you look at podcasts.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, your experience with technology and production. I know you're an artist. I know that you have been dabbling in a lot of this technology stuff. You're way more experienced in a lot of things than I am when it comes to internet and connectivity and things like that. When did you first start exploring production, whether it's art production, digital production, video production, editing, anything like that? When did you first start?
I think for me, like the big push was high school. Really got into it in high school, but I think I started getting into kind of the film and kind of the creative side of it as early as, I would say, junior high, into the technology side of it.
Yeah.
My dad had a big, one of those, boombox VC, or like record directly onto VCR camcorders, and so he had that all the time, and I always looked at that thing and I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to get into that. And so when I got into high school, a lot of my friends, and so I just shout out to all of them. So Elon and Brandon, and there were Ryan. There were a number of guys that we just loved creating stuff. We'd go and grab a video camera and do just like random skit comedy, and we'd play ping pong all night and write stuff that we wanted to turn into like sketch comedy. And a lot of these guys have gone on to do a lot with it. Elon especially, he has his own YouTube channel, but he's very entrenched in audio, makes music. Out of everybody, I'd say he's probably the one that did the most with it. But for me, I was in, yeah, as I watched all these guys, I mean, it was very early on where you were taking the tape and you had a VCR and the tape, and you were basically like cutting pieces by recording from VCR to the different things. So it was a lot of work to do it then. I mean, it's not like it is now where you were just dragging
So
and
was
dropping.
it physically cutting tape, or were you just playing and recording onto a
Playing
new
and
device?
recording onto new. So like a lot of the a lot of the projects that we did in high school. So if we had the opportunity, if it was given to us to either write a paper or there were the
Sure.
list, and if there was a video one, we did it every time. And so we made videos of we actually did our senior project, or our senior video was us, and we did the Matrix because that was when it was like big, and we made it into we got the vice principal involved. So I started to get into it then, and I've really just kind of always been interested in electronics in general. And so as that's blossomed, I mean, the only thing that's held me back from being able to do more is the financial side. Yeah, I mean, that's always the big cut, right? Is what products do you use, and and how much do you spend on getting them? Because a lot of these things are very expensive. I mean, right now we're pretty rigged up, and we got the camera here, we got a camera there, we got the microphones, but I mean, that's an investment. So
but in the other side of it, when it comes to creating things, if it's just with a VCR and a camcorder, that's one thing. But we're at the point now with even I've seen people with just their cell phones producing cinema quality video and putting it out there. So it might not be total quality of Hollywood, but with the computer technology we have, with the microphones that we have, we can produce some pretty legit stuff, and nobody would know in comparison to the tape, pause, record, static, trying to set tracking.
Yeah, I mean, for some of the stuff that I do right now, like the shorts that I create and things like that, I mean, it's just easier for me to snag my phone real quick and download that down, cut it real quick. You can do I mean, you have all of the stuff at your fingertips. But to your point, I mean, there's something to be said about doing it from a quiet space where you can cut, where you can pay attention to each thing meticulously, and you can do that on your phone. I mean, that's the crazy thing. But then again, you get into would you do that on like a Nokia? No.
Right.
But would you do it on like an iPhone 13 or a Samsung Galaxy 230, whatever, like whatever number they're on now? I mean, those phones do it great. And it comes down to quality of lens, and I mean, you just learn a lot of these different things as you look at production. And I mean, right now, what I have, I mean, right now, people watching, they'll notice. I mean, there's the quality is not as high because lighting's a big factor, but lights cost money. Everything, every little piece of the puzzle, and you can fine tune it, and you can finick with it, and you can change things up and make it just right, and eventually. That's the goal, is to make it fine-tuned.
Well, and I think that's the important thing to realize is if you wanted to start a YouTube channel or an Instagram that was all about something, with your phone, you can do everything. With the free download apps, you can edit video, you can edit audio, you can put things together. GarageBand, I mean, that's the easiest free to the device, right? The cost of the device. But I agree 100%. The microphones that I have invested in for my podcast are not the top quality microphones. And for I guess it depends on your job, but for a part of your paycheck, you can get a microphone. And then some weeks go by and you invest in a microphone stand, and then you just piece it together as you go. And you just slowly up your game with what you're producing. So let's just go over, I guess, the basic equipment that you do have. What have you been using to produce your video gaming and YouTube channel?
So when I first started out, the whole thing started. I got an Xbox Series X, and I loved it. Like, it was like big. So I had the original Xbox One, like day one edition. So I mean, it still works just fine, but. I wanted an upgrade, and my family got it for me for my birthday, and so I was super excited about that. and my wife's always wanted me to get into it, and so I started looking at what it takes. And you can stream directly from an Xbox.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need all the other equipment. You can plug a camera into it and all those things. The big thing where you fall short is the ability to have overlays. I mean, what we're doing right now is all through the streaming stuff that I have, and so so as I looked at it, I said, okay, I don't want to just be, my face and games. I want to be able to interact, and I want to be able to have conversations with the people that are watching. And so I ended up upgrading a lot of the stuff. So I ended up buying a PC straight for streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like a high-end gaming computer. It does have all of the stuff, so I can edit and all that, and I can play. I mean, I could play Halo on it if I wanted to.
Sure.
But some of the higher end games, you start to bog it down and overheat and all that kind of stuff.
And wherever you live, I haven't gone PC shopping, but wherever you live, you can go to the Best Buy or whatever the big box store is, or you can go to the local mom and pop computer store.
That's what I did.
And ask them for a what do you have that is not top of the line, but is no longer.
I actually shopped specifically by graphics card.
Yeah.
Everything else I looked at, the graphics card, because graphics cards right now, especially when I was looking, are so expensive. I shopped specifically by the graphics card, and I was able to buy this whole PC for less money than the graphics card itself.
Was going for because of its rarity.
And so it was really, it was kind of a steal for me, but I made sure that it had the right amount of processor speed.
Sure.
So i7. I wanted to go a different route, but the i7 seemed like it would do me good. So I made sure that it had all the proper computing power to not just stream, but also I do play games on PC as well.
Yeah.
I do stream some games that are PC games, so I wanted it to be able to do some of those as well. And so I got that. Microphone was a big deal.
Yeah.
A lot of people said just use your headset. I've heard my headset, and
for some people that works.
Yeah.
For if you have to use it, you have to use it, and people don't typically care much.
Yeah, and my headset's fairly nice. It's got a good microphone. I bought it for that reason because I had been using one that didn't have a good microphone before, and everybody yelled at me. So get a good microphone. But I ended up getting a better microphone, which I got it's actually a Yeti X. And I got that for a steal. I found that on sale as well because it was the Warcraft edition was going out. But then I needed something, because I was going to stream from my Xbox. I needed a capture card, so I went and got an Elgato whatever it is, HD60S Plus. And then I got actually for my birthday, and I think you chipped in on this one. I ended up getting a Stream Deck, which I have in my hand right now, which is why I'm switching between cameras. And then I realized, so I started playing with people on PC, and I realized, well, I can't hear them and hear, so I ended up getting an audio mixer so I could hear both people on PC and on the Xbox and hear all that audio. And then the big, huge investment was my internet was garbage.
Yeah.
And the first few streams I did, I was dropping frames and it was dropping signal. And so I ended up trying to find an internet and ended up getting T-Mobile internet because it actually pushed out what I needed to push out.
Yeah.
And so, all in, the investment was substantial.
Sure. Over what period of time would you say that happened? It wasn't over just a few months.
No. I'm still getting pieces. I'm still getting pieces to the puzzle, still upgrading things. But I'd say it was at least I'd say like a 10-month journey to get all. If you count the Xbox, sure. It was a year and a half journey.
Yeah, and so and I've heard that from a lot of different people, a lot of different producers, that you start with what you got, and as you slowly can elevate to the next piece, elevate to the next level, and see how you can incorporate it. And if it doesn't quite work, just be patient. You get the next piece. So that's the hardware. That's the physical things, and you have the background, the understanding of what about software?
Ooh.
There's a variety of things that you have running right now. What are you running?
So everyone that streams right now is going to hate me for this, but right now I am using Streamlabs. I am making a shift on that. Just because, not because I don't like Streamlabs. I actually like Streamlabs, and assume if you're saying it, but I actually like the setup of it. I do prefer some of the plugins that you can get through OBS Studio, though. So I think that I'll be moving over to that. There's another one that I'm looking at possibly using, which I'm tinkering with right now. That's called Polypop, which is another streaming software that has a lot of three-dimensional stuff, and it's really cool. It actually adds a Z-axis to your stream, so you can put three-dimensional objects into it. So I'm toying with that. We'll see if I actually want to get that integrated into it. But then going from that, I mean, the software I use for like editing, so I use DaVinci, DaVinci Pro, which I actually use the free version of that, just because I don't have anything that I'm trying to get too deep into right now. And then I like to use for editing pictures and things like that. I have used Canva, which is a great software, and then I also have been using my favorite editing software right now for pictures, which is GIMP. Yeah, and it's a horrible name, but it's a fantastic software.
Fantastic free software.
Free, and it's basically, if you look at it, it's Photoshop.
Yeah.
A much downgraded, very bare bones. They don't have the scaffolding on it. It doesn't look pretty. But it's fantastic, man. I really enjoy using it, so it's really easy for me to just jump into that and use that for artwork.
So what I'm hearing is, when it comes to software, you pick something. If it's free, it's free. And as you learn what you like and what you don't like, you graduate on to the next thing. And whether that's Streamlabs or OBS, those are things that I don't use. I just record straight to digital. So just like with physical technology, whatever the software is, use what you've got. Use what you have access to. If you're in school, chances are, whether it's high school or college, you might have access to some suite of software that you can use.
Yeah, I'd kill for access right now. Well, don't quote me on that. But if I had access to Adobe Suite, man,
yeah.
It really is just an easy to use software. But unless you're making money doing what you're doing with it, it's so expensive.
It's hard to justify the cost, for sure.
It's very expensive. But at the end of the day, if you're making all of those things, if you're making all that artwork, it makes sense to have something that does it. But for me right now, to me right now, it's overpriced until this becomes something substantial and can pay for itself.
Yeah.
Then I won't make that jump. Right now, I'm really enjoying just kind of the free source stuff that's out there, that's available, that people have made.
And that's use. Fair. If anybody's been watching your show, anybody watches your stream, it's been fantastic. There are hiccups here and there, but that's part of the learning process. Yeah. And we want to avoid those things, but if you don't just start, you're never going to start. And expect those things to happen. I had a train of thought with software, and I can't remember what it was.
It's still in the station.
Well, I guess we'll come back. So you have here's what it was. So you are, for those that are watching this, we're assuming that you have been watching at least one other episode or stream of Jack's before. If you're curious about what is going on, if this is your first happen into, previous episode is the introduction to why Jack and the Xbox exists and what he's about. And that leads just into the next thing. As you stream and decide what it is that you want to produce for people, what are your guidelines? What are your limits? I know that we've talked about rating systems and what happens in the United States and what happens in other countries, but who are you mimicking, and who's your audience, and how is what you're doing best on YouTube? Because we've talked about other avenues other than YouTube.
Yeah, no. So for me right now, one of the big things that I have tried to avoid is anything of a graphic nature. My audience and who I'm trying to appeal to, and who I really hope can grasp onto this, is not just kids, not just dads, not just single well, I'm just the microphone. Not just singles, but everybody. And so because of that, I want to make sure that the audience that it can appeal to, that a kid can sit down with their dad and watch it, or a kid can ask their mom, "Hey, is this something that you're okay with me watching?" And they'll say yes. And that, but at the same time, which is a very difficult thing, is for a 25-year-old to sit down and watch and say, "Hey, this guy's actually kind of funny.
Yeah,
I want to watch this and see how it goes." So I mean, some of the guidelines that I put in there is no profanity, for me or for anybody I'm streaming with, and I'll call people on it when it happens, because here's the thing: you can't control others,
right?
But you can ask them, and you can not stream with them if they decide that that's the way they're out there going to go.
Yeah.
The other thing is the games that I'm streaming, unless for some reason I haven't had the situation yet, but I foresee it being the case where a mature content game is going to be played for whatever purpose it might be, and I will put cautions all over that to make sure that a parent that's looking forward to sitting down with their kid, they see that, they say, "Oh, we're not going to watch Jack and the Xbox tonight because this game doesn't have a rating I'm comfortably watching." So giving heads up and things like that is important to me.
And then the parent trusts you to know that those warnings exist, and I'm going to come back and watch this later because my kid has been talking about this game, and I want to know what's in it, so that when they do ask, or when I go to talk to them about it, I have a reason why it is or isn't appropriate for my kid.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, I mean, you asked the question of who am I mimicking, and who are my kind of models for who I'm trying to become like. The best way that I would look at it, and the way that I'm trying to, it's very difficult, because what I'm trying to do is set a precedent. I'm trying to do something original that's different, that appeals to a different audience. But if I were to put it out there, who I'd like to see myself become like, the big streamers, obviously, that are out there for Warzone and for Apex. So like Nick Merckx, Tim the Tap Man, who are great streamers, and who I would, I look at them and I say, these are probably great guys that'd be fun to hang out with. But if you ask me if I want my 10-year-old to sit down and watch one of their streams, I'd say heck no, because of the whatever it might be, profanity or topics that they bring up in discussion, those types of things. It's nothing against them. It's just not the content that I'd want to put in front of my kid.
Sure.
And so they've actually extended outside of the box of just streaming, though, and they really have generated and created a community, which is what I want.
Yeah.
More than just making a channel. I want a community that can get together and know that
good, wholesome fun. Yeah,
that they have like morals, and they have they have like standards.
Sure.
But they can bring their kids to it, and feel safe in that surrounding. So that's the goal.
So you've ultimately landed on YouTube, and I don't know about these other streamers that you're mentioning. I've seen them, but I haven't really followed them. Are they only on YouTube, or are they on other platforms as well? And are you looking at branching out to some of those others, or have you landed on YouTube because that's where it's probably the safest?
So they have gone the gambit on Twitch. Right, they started off on Twitch. Nick Merckx is still on Twitch. He has a YouTube channel and posts shorts and things like that on YouTube. But a couple of these other guys, like Courage JD and Tim the Tap Man, have made a switch over to YouTube. For me, YouTube made the most sense because I wasn't just looking at streaming. I was looking at content creation on the whole. I mean, my end game is, a stream's going to be a part of that, but it really comes down to producing content where people can come, they can watch a cut of a game and decide whether or not it's worth their time, as well as I want to have some fun with that too. I mean, I fancy myself a funny man, and so I want to be able to produce some comedic stuff in there too down the line. But it's all a process of the growth, right? Yeah. And so the issue and the hard part right now is it is a saturated market. There's a lot of people that want to stream. There's a lot of people that want, that want to make it big on YouTube, and they want to, whatever it might be, they want to stream for a living. And so, I mean, I was in a car full of my son's friends, and the question came out: if you could play video games for a living, who would do it? And every single one of them raise their hands. Even the kids even the kids were like, "There's no way." No, he would play games for a living if he could.
Yeah.
And so that's the big thing is looking at an oversaturated market and saying, do I have the tenacity to do what it takes for somebody to look at me that might want to be a streamer and might want to create content and say, I'd like to mirror that person.
Yeah.
I'd like to be like Jack in the Xbox. Does that resonate? Is that something that I feel? I hope so. I hope that, kids that look at it say, I'd like to stream and I'd like to keep it clean.
Yeah.
I'd love that. But we'll see. I mean, that's the goal.
So you landed on YouTube, and I've been just racking my brain here trying to think, because you mentioned some that started on YouTube, some that started on Twitch. Where else do people stream, and how safe are those places for parents and their kids? Like, I hear about Reddit, and for the most part, I would say Reddit is a decent place to find information, but there's definitely a side of it where, like YouTube, like anywhere, I hear about a kid being there and I freak out. I'm nervous. What is it that they're having access to real fast, real easy, no limits? What other places stream, and what do parents need to know about those places?
Yeah, so, I mean, right now you have the three main platforms for streaming. There are tons of them.
Sure.
The three main platforms that if your kid asks you if they can go watch, Twitch is going to be one. And it's going to be the main one for streaming. Just because that's where most streamers go. It's actually the lowest threshold to monetize and start making money on it. There are some things that prevent you from just posting content, so that's one of the reasons why I use it. But I mean, there are some dark sides to that. I mean,
Sure.
there was this whole scenario where people were doing what they called hot tub streams, and so you have to be, I mean, like any parent should be, they should be conscious of what their kids are going into. But here's the thing, if your kid is getting into Twitch, you can go on and you can see every channel that they have been on. And that's, I mean, for me, it's important for me to not really just backhandedly go through a search history, but to go
Sure.
through that with the kids so they know, hey, listen, there's eyes on this, and we want you to be able to participate in these things, but you need to be safe doing it.
Yeah.
YouTube, there's a dark side of YouTube. I mean, for sure. Everything that's on Twitch, here's the funny thing. Every big Twitch player has a YouTube channel because that's where they post their content to get people to come over to Twitch.
Yeah.
And then the last one is Facebook. Facebook is a huge gaming platform as well right now. And so with Facebook, you just have to recognize that's a social networking platform. So if your kid's going to be on Facebook and watching it, there's a lot of the fail safes, in my opinion, with Facebook aren't there as readily as with YouTube or even with Twitch.
Yeah.
So Facebook to me is probably, I mean, if your kid has, if you're fine with your kid having they're mature enough,
Sure.
and you're okay with them being on a social networking platform, and you're okay with them, go for it. I mean, that's fine. But there's also very little you can do to block content on that, and so.
And you can on YouTube, and you can through Twitch, and this is by no means any kind of a judgment on these platforms. These are just places where people think about putting their content where they're going to stream from. Yeah,
and I mean, it's about for me, it's about, like I said, I mean, here's the thing, kids will get into whatever content kids want to get to, you know what I mean? And that's, all my hope is that they'll have a desire to get into my content, and I'll keep it, keep it clean. That's the objective for me. I'm not here to say or judge any parent for any content that they're gonna, but I would like to provide a place for, I keep hitting that freaking microphone. I would like, a safe place, but also, I mean, the big thing for me with that, also looking at it, is I'm providing that same place, but I'm also giving parents a resource to ask questions, because for me, looking at video games, dude, I was just going through today and looking at the games that were coming out on Xbox Game Pass, and they're putting out like 10, 15 games a month on Game Pass, and it's hard to keep up with that. And that's just the free games, you know what I mean? There's a whole other platform of paid games that you look at and you say, man, there's so many video games out there.
Yeah.
And I want parents to be able to say, hey, listen, my kid asked about this game. What are your thoughts? And if I don't know, and I have access to it,
Yeah.
I'll find out for you. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll message you back within the day and tell you if this is a game that's
Yes or no.
yeah. Well, and not even yes or no, but give you the content of the game. Right.
Sure.
Here's what it's rated. Here's why it's rated that way, and make a choice. Is this okay for your kid?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the big thing. Is you can't tell somebody how to parent, right? I mean,
Right.
a parent's going to parent the way they want to parent, but when it comes to content, like for me, for my kids growing up, it was very much so a situation where if they asked about a movie that was even remotely questionable in my mind, like, hey, I'd like to watch that first.
Yeah.
Let me watch it, and then I'll make a judgment call. And I'm glad that I lived in that way, and I continue to live in that way, because there's some stuff, man, that if you just go watch it with your kid, you're inundating with some pretty scary images,
Yeah.
right? And then
then you're up all night.
yeah, and 003
Uh-huh.
can't watch a Marvel movie, man, because she will have nightmares.
Yeah.
But 004, who's younger than her, can watch all of them and be just fine. So you gotta be educated on what's appropriate and what's not appropriate for them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So let's walk through the steps. Somebody has an Xbox, and that's all they have. You say they can stream. How do they do that? I mean, they have to have the internet.
Yeah. So I mean, if you have an Xbox, you actually there's an app that you basically download through Xbox.
Okay.
That you can go straight to the live stream. It's not Streamlabs, and I forgot what it's called right now. You put me on the spot on that one. But you can go on there, and it's a direct to whatever. Right now, it's just Twitch.
Okay.
That's the only thing you can stream to directly from your Xbox. That's another reason why I went the route that I went, so that I could do it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it was you basically set it up so it put all your tiles in and all that kind of stuff, and you could go straight to stream. And then you just had to plug a camera in if you wanted your camera on there. You don't even need to put a camera on there. I mean, I chose to put a camera on there just because, like I said, I wanted to be able to interact and between games, go from just looking at the game to be able to have some fun with it.
Yeah.
So that's why I did what I did.
So if they have a headset with a mic, can they talk over it while they're playing? Will that record that or stream that?
Yep.
Okay.
So if you have a headset with a mic, it'll put the audio directly on.
Sweet.
So it's pretty easy. I mean, to get into streaming is pretty
You have
cut
an
and dry.
Xbox, you have the internet, download it,
Exactly.
and begin.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, so the next step for that is connecting everything to your PC.
Yeah. And that's
And that requires diagrams and arrows. And
yeah.
first you plug this in here.
And then a knowledge of what's not going to fry your computer if you. I mean, because here's the thing: if you think about it, the number of things that I have plugged into my computer right now.
Yeah.
Most computers don't come with that many ports.
Yeah.
So you got to get the port extenders, or you got to go in and actually put additional ports in, and so USB 3 ports.
So a little bit of
jazz.
research.
So yeah, you definitely if you're gonna upgrade and go to a more and let me clarify. So the one that you can do on your Xbox, you actually can pay a fee if you don't want to. If you're willing to start out with some money, and it'll upgrade things like you can put overlays and all that kind of stuff on there. But for me, I'd much rather put the the non-monthly out and get the computer and then have a little bit more creative right to it.
Yeah.
Because I started off by getting the overlays, and I didn't like them.
Yeah.
I was it was somebody else's art, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna put my own stuff in.
And it kind of looks like other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've decided, and I'm not done yet. I mean, my overlays right now are pretty basic. So I've got some plans.
But I think that's awesome. I think that is a demonstration of here's what I want to do, here's where I'm going, this will work for now, and whatever comes up next comes up. Whatever gets developed, and if it works for a year or two, that's who you are. That's what it is, and that's okay.
Yeah. Actually, so that video editing software I was talking about, so one of my favorite things has been to create, and I've done a horrible job of it because I keep putting sound effects in them, and I've realized the sound effect for some reason is like 9 times louder than everything else. But it's there are these little transitions between the videos. Like I don't have any playing right now because this is an interview, but I I love the being able to put those transitions in there, and how fun it is to make them. So actually making one right now that it's a door that closes and then reopens. So it's fun to do stuff like that.
It's production value.
Yeah,
it's more entertaining than just a wipe, just a screen switch.
Exactly, but it's also fun for me. Like that's the thing with this, and that I continue to tell my wife is this is fun for me. It's a nightmare. And the reason why it's a nightmare is because I'm putting myself out there. You know, any artist, if you ask any artist how they feel about it, it is a little nerve-wracking, not just to put your artwork out there for people to see, but I'm not just putting my artwork out.
Yeah.
I'm also putting myself on it. So they can say, this dude made that. That's garbage, or that's good. And it's a direct reflection on me. And so it's stressful.
So all of the artwork that you have done is your production?
Yes, thus far.
So the screen, waiting to join whatever your images are in your stream, your logo, your persona, everything that you have done, you have created, you've drawn, you've edited.
Yes.
Somehow digitally created.
So the Jack and the Xbox face.
Yeah.
I actually I was going through a program that you can set up tiles. And I saw this and I was like, dude, I want that. And I looked at the cost and I was like, nope. And so I did my best. I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch.
Yeah.
It's fun and I've enjoyed making it.
It's cool, yeah.
But I ended up kind of replicating that with my own software. And so it was fun to create it. And a lot of people were like, oh yeah, no, I can see it. It's a cool little piece of you. And so I actually went back and looked, and when I do start to actually make money at this, the objective is to go back to that same company and actually purchase the tiles and use that because it's very the creativity of it, in my opinion, is amazing, and it's what I want.
Yeah.
But going back to starting out, I have had to use all my own artwork in order to start things out, and I've had a lot of fun with GIMP. I've actually been doing some creation for another streamer that actually I've been working with Goliath at Gaming Evolved to create some things for him, which has been fun. It's not it's not my job,
Sure.
It's not something I do for a living, but it's enjoyable for me because it's art and I like doing art. I always have liked doing art. So
now you get to apply it to your hobby. That's owning your good. Your talent is being shown to people. It's being shared.
Yeah.
That's epic. And scary.
It's scary, dude. It's scary to own your good, man. I think a lot of people don't. They're like, oh yeah, no, I'm really good at this. No, it's scary to own your good because you really are putting it out there to say whether or not you're willing for people to accept you or not.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of YouTubers talk about how it can be a very depressing thing because I mean you see subscribers come in, you see subscribers go out. I mean, we're doing this right now and I've watched like 5 or 6 viewers come in and go out because this isn't what they want to watch right now because generally I'm playing video games. But it's one of those things where you really are putting yourself out there for people to say yes or no to.
Yeah.
And
it takes time.
It does. It's not an instant process. I mean, you have some of those YouTubers that get out there and boom, they hit instant success.
Something happens, yeah.
They see, they're 10,000 because they had some viral hit that everyone's like, yeah, I like this guy. I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
But then you hit the ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
But the objective is to hopefully find your niche, produce something worth watching, and then make it happen.
So we talked about, the collection of gear taking somewhere between 10 months and a year and a half. When did you officially start Jack and the Xbox? What was the time?
So my very first stream was on my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
And so it was last year it was in September. So last year, September. And
September 2021.
Yep. So that's when the very first stream was. It was on Twitch. I did my very first stream on Twitch. My only stream on Twitch. I actually I tried using a split system where I would stream on both things at once, but decided, nah, I'm not going to do that. because eventually, if I am able to monetize on YouTube, that all goes away.
Yeah.
I might actually do it for a little while. I'm not going to do it on Twitch, because if I do it on Twitch and things take off on Twitch, then if I hit partner with them, they take that away, and I get in trouble for doing it. So I might do it on Facebook. I have to look at the rules and regulations there. But yeah, so that was my very first one was on Twitch, and then the very next one was on YouTube, and they were all very, very garbage because of my internet. And it hit the point where I actually had to say, hey guys, I'm not going to do this for a little while until I get better internet. And apparently I'm in a dead spot for internet, so it took me like a month to get my internet figured out. And then I started things up on YouTube. And during that time, I had created a few things on YouTube. And one of the big things that pushed this forward, that started this, like, that actually got probably the majority of my subscribers right now, was me talking about my internet.
Yeah.
Like, I've made a couple funny videos about, testing speeds, and people seem to like it, and people were asking me all sorts of questions, so I was answering them as best I could, and it's been really fun, and it's really pushed me to make my internet better, too. Yeah. Because all these people are asking these questions, I'm like, I don't know, let me find out. So I'll get in there and I'll I've tested out like 5 different routers, and my next big thing is I am going to get an external an antenna to see if I can boost my I'm doing all that stuff, and I enjoy making the videos. I actually have a couple in the queue right now for that crowd. Yeah. But it's not my passion. Yeah. Gaming's my passion. This is more of a curiosity. Yeah. And so it's fun. And so I hope that the people that are doing this understand. My hope is that some of you that watch my T-Mobile videos get into this and understand what my objective is, and it's of interest. I mean, that's my hope. Yeah. Because
and maybe even help out in the community, because there's got to be somebody somewhere else that's going through the exact same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I do. I hope that that's the case. And I mean, that T-Mobile community, I'll tell you right now, they do. I mean, they're answering each other's questions on my messages, like, thank you for that, because I didn't know the answer. So it's great.
That's awesome.
But it definitely, my hope is that it feeds into the gaming side of it, because I see some of these guys are asking questions, and I can tell that they're either looking at it for their increased speeds for gaming or whatever it might be, and so I hope that they feel a desire to look into it, and maybe there's a few that don't, and I get that. And if down the road they're like, you know what, not my cup of tea, unsubscribe. That's what it is. That's fair. And that's fine. Yeah. And because I don't want to inundate people with stuff that they have no interest in watching.
I don't have kids. Why am I watching this?
Exactly. So
nice. That is the whole, just the environment of creating a community. People will come in and go as they feel like they're benefiting. So with your current setup, you're focusing on Xbox. Is it easy to jump over to streaming from other devices? Whether those phones or PlayStation, GameCube, it's all the same?
So right now I can stream from anything with my setup. Yeah. I mean, I stream from my PC on occasion, like I said. If somebody would bring a PS5 in here tomorrow, I could just hook all this stuff up to that and stream. Yeah. It's Switch, same deal. It's very, once you have all this equipment, it really is just kind of the plug and play of the game system, right? So, I could stream from anything right now.
Yeah, it feels overwhelming knowing, like you just mentioned, 15 games coming out on the Game Pass, the free games coming out, to have to manage and juggle what's going on with Nintendo, what's going on with Sony, what's going on with Xbox. That's a lot.
It is a lot, but I'll tell you right now, I love games. Yeah. And so I mean, I try to stay ahead of it. I mean, like right now for me, obviously the big news and the big game that I'm following as closely as possible is Halo. Yeah. Because we're 13 days away from season 2. Selfish plug. But I'm following that very closely, and so I'm in tune with all of the stream. Like I'm reading all the news. I'm looking at, and so the one thing I haven't gotten into is creating content as I hear these things, because I'll probably be. I did a video on the most recent preview that went out for season 2, because I was like, oh, this would be fun, and I got nothing. Nobody watched. I think 22 people watched it, so I was like, maybe I'm never doing that again. But what I realize is that it takes time, it takes effort. Eventually, people will see it and they'll say, "Hey, this is cool." And then as more and more people glom onto it, the algorithm, YouTube algorithm will spread it out there. But it takes time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that are, hey, take my free class on how to learn how to. And here's the thing. I look at the number of people that are going through those classes, and it's hundreds, if not thousands in some cases. And I'm like, it really doesn't matter if you take that class or that course if you don't have something unique to offer to the market.
Something that's driving you to produce content regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that needs to be the case in order for you to be on YouTube or to stream. If it's a passion and you want to do it, that's great. Go for it and do it. But what I am saying is that if it's going to be a living, if it's going to be a substantial source of income for you in some form or another, you really have to look at it as a business. Yeah. It can't be you streaming and just raking in the dough. It's not how it works. You have to look at it as a business.
There's advertiseming,
services, marketing, the services that are associated with it. Eventually, for me, I'm going to have to pay for software eventually. There's things that you have to invest in order to make this substantial enough to move things forward. But if it's a passion, and going back to own your good, if it's something that you do because you enjoy it and you love it, right now, I'm continuing down this path for two reasons. I love it.
Yeah.
I love playing games, but I also love being a part of a community that is growing and expanding, and hopefully will grow and expand a ton more. But it's also because of that love and that passion, I do want to make it something substantial.
Yeah.
And so I look at the diversification. I look at the business aspect of it. That's what I do for actual money right now. And so I look at it from that aspect and say, okay, where do I need to plug things in order to grow? But not just grow fast, not just have this, this sudden flare and then it's gone.
Yeah.
But how do I build something with a solid foundation that as it begins to grow, as it's planned out, and as things begin to drop, that the people that come in want to be there and they want to stay there and they want to be a part of that community.
Yeah.
So
there's value created and appreciated. It's developed and produced. Well, that's covered a lot of different things. So for those that are listening right now, we're 7 months in. If you're listening sometime in the future, this channel has been going for 7 months from that first stream on Twitch that was not internet-wise was not fantastic. But now we're 7 months in, and from 0 subscribers in September to now, you're well over 300.
319 right now.
Yeah.
So, honestly, not where I wanted to be. Like I said, from the business aspect, it's not about flare, but I did set some incremental goals. One of the things with YouTube is to monetize. You need to have a certain number of watch hours. You have to have a certain number of subscribers. That number is 1,000.
Yeah. And
so I actually set quarterly goals in order to hit those numbers. And I was supposed to be at 500 by the end of March. So I've had to readjust my goals a bit. I still am hopeful that I'll be at 1,000 before the year mark. And so that's the objective.
Yeah.
But it's definitely one of those things where I'll be honest with you, I have things that I want to do that I actually have edited, and you've watched some of them.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult, very anxiety filled to release those things out because you do take a lot of time, a lot of effort. Some of these edits take 4 or 5 hours plus an additional hour to 2 to 3 hours of capturing. It's an 8 hour. It's a full work day.
Yeah.
In order to release some of these videos, and then you put them out there and you just go, okay, little bird fly, and then 3 people watch it. And you're like, come on, man! That was 8 hours.
Here's the philosophy. Here's the background that a lot of people don't think about, and I have this problem where I think, I can just edit this real fast and put it out there. If it's not quality, it won't last. If it's not valuable to anybody, it won't last. So taking the time to capture, taking the time to edit, taking the time to voice over, whatever it is that it takes to make it happen, once that thing is out there, even if the initial week is only 3 views, if it's quality, it's perennial. It'll come back. People will hit that game sometime in December because it's Christmas. People will hit that game sometime around their birthday because they got a gift card from grandma. Like, if it's quality, if it really helps people feel, get, understand what it's about, why it's good, why you like it, whatever, it's a benefit. It's a bonus. It's the value that people are looking for.
Yeah. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think the one thing that's, like I said, the one thing that scares me with the gaming market is there are the games that hit and stay.
Yeah.
And then there are the games that are just kind of flares, right? They people buy them, and all of a sudden they're gone. And my thing is if a game's quality, if a game's worth playing, it should be played. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, video games, for the most part, I mean, that's somebody else's art, right? That's and not just one person, but I mean, these production teams are huge. And so a game that I've made or started making this video for that I'm really anxious to put out there is a game called Tunic.
Yeah.
And it's a single player game, which really, I mean, typically speaking, is not I'm not a real big single player game type of guy.
And we talked about that in episode 1.
Yeah, but I played this and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, just beautiful. It's difficult. Like, you look at it and you be like, oh, okay, this is a game for 4-year-olds.
Crossy Road.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
And like, I was playing, I was just like, man, I couldn't put this in front of my 5-year-old and expect them to not throw a controller through my TV. Yeah. And I looked at it and I thought, a parent wouldn't, a parent would, or somebody else would just pass this by. They'd look at it and say, oh, nah, kid game.
Yeah.
No, man, it's like Dark Souls, just a little bit, with a cool art form, like that's the best way to describe it. And yeah, the way you play through it and your progression's very difficult.
Yeah.
And you start off with like a stick. You find a stick and you have to work your way up into better and bigger weapons. And so I played it for an hour and a half. I started making this video, and I want to continue to play. I want to beat it,
Yeah.
And so it's games like that might fall under the radar, that people might not look at and say, "Yep, I'm going to play this." That I really want people to be educated and know that they're out there.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of hidden gems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of garbage as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff you play. You're like, man, I want that time back, please.
Yep.
And so, let me waste the time, I guess is the best way to put it, and then you can pick out the gems.
Valuable. Yeah. That reminds me, talking about another person's story, another person's art form, another person's investment in creating something. I have a student, shout out to L, I'll just use initial instead of name. They're writing an essay, and we're talking about literature, and she wants to compare a book that we're reading or that we have read, to Red Dead Redemption 2, because there are elements in that story that mirror classic literature.
Yep.
And in my heart, I'm just fluttering both on the video game side and on the classic literature side, where I'm like, oh my gosh, now I need to go play Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it's epic, and whether or not that game is appropriate for every kid, whether or not you can control what kids see or hear in that game, she's a senior, she's an adult, she can do what she's doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the point. I mean, the big thing for me always has been, always will be, and I'll just reiterate it again.
Yeah.
It's not about age.
Yeah.
Yeah. You look at these rating systems: E for everyone, E10+, T for teen, M for mature. The rating systems are there for a reason, but they're also, when you play these games and you look at them, they are based on maturity, right? Yeah. I mean, like, I can play a game today that I would say for, it's fine for this 13-year-old, but this 13-year-old, no, he needs to step up to the plate a little bit, mature a little bit before this game is okay for him or her to play.
Yeah.
And that's for parents to decide.
Yeah, you know your kids. You know what they're capable of. You know what nightmares they have.
Well, and I think gaming content, I think that for a lot of parents that are out there, and nothing against them, because gaming, like I said, I mean, the market's so huge. It's so saturated with video games. It's very difficult as a parent to know when a kid asks you about a game, what is that game?
Yeah.
But the big thing for me is if you're a parent and you know the content that your kid's playing, you can relate to them better as well.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, 001, he loves playing Halo right now, and I love playing Halo with him. You know, 003, 003 and 4, love playing Fortnite, so let's play some Fortnite.
Yeah.
And 005 is all about, speedrunners. So we play speedrunners. It's about knowing what your kid likes, but also understanding if it is appropriate for them or it's not appropriate for them.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's a tough game, this parenthood thing.
Yeah.
But wouldn't give it up for anything. And I love playing games with my kids, so might as well be involved and invested in it.
Yep. Know what they're doing. Well, I think we've covered a lot about how to start it up, and I'm sure there are questions. There are lots of how-tos. I've done my own research and watching and rewatching videos on starting a video channel, starting with YouTube, starting with a podcast, and how to edit things and how to fade. Once you've got your software chosen, how do I do this? There are resources everywhere, whether that's reaching out here on YouTube in this stream or reaching out to people that you know in person, IRL. I hate this as a teacher. I hear stuff and I hear my kids talking about stuff
IRL.
and then I have to say it and I'm like, oh jeez, now I know I sound like that old guy who's cheesy and cringy and dabbing and stuff.
Yeah, you gotta dab every now and again.
But I think you can do it. If it's something that you want to do, if it's something that you really have a mission, you feel like you want to do it, you can do it. And whatever you focus on, and this is probably the biggest lesson, whatever you focus on will happen. Whatever you spend time thinking about and planning and doing, it will happen. And that's both positive and negative. That's both good and bad. Well, Jack, anything else?
No, just shout out to Mr. Horlatcher.
Yeah,
just said
I saw
hello.
that. Yeah.
Now, well, going back to this is an experience for me because it helps me think through a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, and it's a confidence boost to me because like you talk about owning your good. What I want is for gaming to not. I think gaming can be viewed in several lights, and I think gaming in a lot of cases is viewed as something that is isolating or damaging, or it can be so much more than that if you allow it to be, but you have to be proactive. Anything that's good in the world, I feel like you kind of have to be proactive to make it
intentional.
Good. Yeah, and so gaming is the same way. I mean, you can't just slap a kid down in front of a video game and expect them to
become Air Force pilots or
exactly
expert surgeons or whatever
even though there's games that simulate all those things.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's more about understanding what they're playing. I'm not saying anything about single player games. There's a place for them, and I know that. Like I said, not necessarily my cup of tea, but for a lot of people, it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's a matter of knowing what the content is. And going back to looking at this, not just a parent. I mean, I've talked a lot about being a parent.
Yeah.
But going back to this being something where, if you're 15 years old or 25 years old and you have kids, you don't have kids, it's about taking your gaming knowledge and the enjoyment of that gaming and sharing it with a community that enjoys the same things you do. You know what I mean? Like, we try to do this big thing on Saturdays where we put a big team battle together and play Halo all together. And it hasn't caught on yet, but I imagine at some point it's going to be 12v12, and there's going to be people knocking on the door to get in, and it's going to be a fun community
that'd
night.
Be a blast.
And there's all those types of things that I think that will be so much fun down the road, and hopefully, the whole purpose of this, talking about the setup and getting going on it, my hope is that I've put myself in a position with the equipment that I have to be appealing to a wide enough audience that they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's epic.
So.
And having experienced this big team battle with just a few of us, that would be epic.
It'd be fun, man.
To have 12v12, people that you know, people that you've just met, that will soon be longtime friends.
Yeah.
That sounds like a blast. Well, for those of us listening on the Own Your Good podcast, I appreciate you joining with us and traveling along with Jack and his experience starting up Jack and the Xbox, finding out what that's about, and seeing what's developing as he goes through this. And hopefully over the next few episodes, we'll be able to see where this is going, and maybe gain confidence in something that you're trying to start, something that you want to start up, something that you are trying to accomplish and develop. You can do it. If you think about it and plan it, it'll happen. Are we done?
Yeah, no, I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, you wrap it up.
Okay. Well, for who's watching right now, by the way?
It might be me.
Is it? Or are you on there?
I was just checking for comments.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, there's 2 viewers on there. Whoever's watching right now, thanks for watching, and whoever watches down the road, thanks for tuning in and being a part of this. I know it's one of those things where for me, it's fun to have the opportunity to sit down with somebody and hash these questions out and to be interviewed about them. And I've really enjoyed doing this with Dave, and I think that collaboratively speaking, there's a lot of good stuff that's going to come down the pipeline for this.
I think so.
We're going to get for those of you that watch this that also watch Goliath, we're going to eventually get Gaming Evolved on to one of these so that he can talk to him and kind of get his feedback as far as what his objectives and goals are. But it is a pleasure to be able to create content and do artwork, both on the spot like streaming, but also be able to create content and edit things to put out to you guys. And hopefully, if you have friends and family that you feel would be interested in it, get them involved. Tell them to subscribe, and let's grow the community together. A community grows together. It's not one person pushing it. So if you have friends that you think would be awesome, Wilhelami Horlacher, is that your name? I know your name is Horlocker. We hope that you push that out to them. Tell people to join the community. Tell people to subscribe. It's not just about gamings too. It's fun. Hopefully it's fun. Some of these things, it's just as entertaining to watch as watching a movie. Watching a grown man scream while playing a horror game, or watching me try to slide and play Halo while only being able to shoot while I slide. Hopefully it's entertaining. That's the point. So thanks for joining, guys, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next one. Have a great night, and peace.